Viruses, fungi, and parasites change over time, rendering medicines ineffective, leading to more challenging infections and a higher risk of disease transmission, severe illness, and death. India, which is the most populous country and a major player in the pharmaceutical industry, possesses the potential to make a significant impact on the global stage in addressing this pressing issue. India, whereas should take the lead in promoting responsible antibiotic use, implementing stringent regulation on antibiotic production and sales, and investing in research and development for alternative treatments. On that note, in order to set the context, I would now like to welcome our first speaker, Dr. S.K. Tori.
Thank you. Thank you, yeah, and I think the TV and all. You're from Bengali, Hindi, and English, all media together. Yeah, I think we met some of you during our press meeting day before yesterday. So basically, as was mentioned, we have quite a few faculty here from different parts of India, infectious disease faculty, infection, antibiotic use, and intensivist. So the theme is antibiotic resistance. So what I would prefer that, first of all, what is antibiotic resistance? You must be reading in the newspapers. Even India Today had is a frontline, was a news that there is increasing resistance to antibiotic in our country. And you must be reading it, you must be writing about it as well. So lot of resistance in our country of antibiotic. We had scientific sessions in the morning, and there are not many antibiotic left. And even we are seeing patients coming from community, that is from home, with very drug resistant infection, where previously a few drugs like ampicillin, penicillin used to work, but now they are not working. So it's a very grave concern. Many people are dying due to antibiotic resistance, and India is they say for antibiotic resistance. And so we are just going to talk about, as we are talking to your media person, you'd like to convey. Basically, the reason for this meeting is the main reason of sometimes they say patients demand antibiotic, and what we want that through you only we can disseminate this information that half of the infections are probably viral infections, cough, cold, which do not require antibiotic. Unfortunately, we don't have very stringent regulation in our country where we are not supposed to prescribe antibiotic due to a viral infection. In the West, even the pharmacist is not going to give antibiotic if your prescription symptom signs are like a viral infection. So you require permission to get antibiotics. Similarly, in order to give high-end antibiotics, you require permission, and there is antibiotic stewardship. So there have been actions taken by our government, actions taken by ICMR on this. So that is, I'm going to ask all the panelists just to highlight their views. And so five minutes or so from each of the panelists. Then we'll open it up to questions. You can ask whatever doubts you have for antimicrobial resistance. So basically conveying this knowledge to the public that antibiotic resistance is a big issue, and people are dying due to antibiotic resistance, and what can be done about it in order to reduce it. So I will hand it over to Dr. Subramanian Swaminathan. He's going to talk. He's an infectious disease consultant, about his view as so far as the media and the lay public are concerned.
Thank you. So I'll start out by quoting the father of modern medicine, Sir William Osler. Sir William Osler said more than 100 years ago, what separates man from other animals is his desire to take medicines. None of us take BP medicine, cholesterol medicine, or cancer medicine because we don't feel nice. But all of us take antibiotics when we don't feel nice. So I'm going to say what separates man from other animals is his desire to take antibiotics. And that is what is the starting point, which is dangerous. The question is, why do we take antibiotics? It's because we are scared. And we somehow think that by taking antibiotics we'll be fine. Right? We are scared of every fever. We are scared that things can go wrong. And every day we read either online or in the media or whatever it is that bad things happen. Obviously, a lot of good things are also happening, but we don't understand that. We only think of the bad things and we are scared of it, which is human. And we think by taking antibiotics we are going to be fine, which is not really true. The answer is we need to know what is happening. The answer to fear is never saying be brave. The answer to fear is always knowledge. We need to understand that we are in a hole. Getting more antibiotics is never going to be the answer because we're going to dig a deeper hole. To get out of the hole, first we need to understand why we got into the hole and how bad is it going to be. Jim O'Neill, an economist, said that 2050, drug-resistant bacteria are going to kill more people than even cancer. It is going to be a catastrophe because of the cost. I will put it like this. Think of a situation where somebody comes for, say, a delivery or a hip replacement or something like that, and then they get an infection in a hospital which becomes impossible to treat. We cannot fix that by finding new drugs. We have to fix that by understanding that we are making mistakes today, and we need to be sensible about how we use these things. These are a resource. Even if it's Amrit, you should only take limited amounts of it. In my language, we say, if the level is exceeded, even Amrit becomes Vish. In that, even that can become a poison. And to start with, antibiotics are not Amrit. They are designed for a purpose. We should respect that. Once we start respecting it and asking ourselves, do we need the antibiotic? Am I taking the antibiotic because I'm afraid, or is it because it's going to help me? That's the starting point. I think we need to start telling people that antibiotics are not the answer for every problem. Yes, there are situations where antibiotics are needed, but patients should be happy about not taking an antibiotic. This has to be a multi-stakeholder involvement. The government has a role to play, they're doing something. Physicians have a role to play, the society has a role to play, pharmacy has a role to play, everybody has a role to play. It cannot win without all stakeholders working together. So we need to understand that every time an antibiotic is written, I always tell my patients, ask them, do I really need the antibiotic? If it's necessary, yes, take it. But ask. Never pressure the clinician into giving an antibiotic because that's not healthy for you in the long run. You pay a cost at the back end. We are seeing more and more difficult to treat infections today because of the antibiotic use. The cost is not what you pay at the pharmacy. The cost is getting infections which are becoming impossible to treat. And you get an infection like that, we are running out of antibiotics. What do? This is a terrible situation. And there is a clear association with drug use. The only way to get out of it is reduction of antibiotic use. And the foreign countries have seen that. Every time they put in mechanisms to reduce antibiotic use, the amount of resistance also comes down. Obviously, we need to promote overall healthy living, which includes sanitation, water supply, hygiene, even things like hand hygiene. We all know that. But restricting antibiotics is also part of the answer and an important part of the answer. As an infectious disease guy, this is something which is very near and dear to me because I am worried that there will come a time when the intensivist will call me and say, I have a sick patient, can you help? And I'm worried I may say, I don't have a solution for you. That's a horrible situation. And we are hoping we won't get into that. And our worry is we are going there very, very fast. We knew how it was before antibiotics came in. And our worry is we may go back to that kind of a setting. We may have antibiotics, but they are all useless. Let's not hope for medical miracles, more and more medical miracles, because we are only entitled to a finite number of miracles. Even a cat has only 9 lives. We can't hope for infinite number of miracles. I am worried we have already exceeded the number of miracles. It is important for us to be sensible and be careful going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Shubhra is a transplant infectious disease physician. you know, you might be writing it or you must be reading it in the newspapers that they get a successful transplant and eventually died. You know, we had this liver transplant case. Then cancer chemotherapy, people have that cancer. Nowadays, very good drugs for cancer. Very rarely patients die because of transplant related complication. You know, surgery has gone wrong and all. That is very, very rare. Chances are very high because their immunity is so low and they get an infection. And usually the infection is a resistant type of infection and that's why they die. So you see the importance, the offshoot of this problem is we can't do good transplants, we can't do good cancer treatment because of the rate of death due to an infection becomes so high. Even the cancer specialists are afraid to give very high-end drugs for the cancer which they know might cure the cancer, but the patient might end up having an infection. You know, road traffic accidents. The patients do get better from road traffic accidents but get an infection and die in the hospital. So these are the issues that needs to be looked into. Not only patients coming with an infection, patients are having other problems, but ultimately the demise might be due to a very severe infection. So that is another thing that you should also keep in mind. So now I will ask Dr. Prakash if you can highlight your view.
I told you what are the problems and how we have come across, or we have created a Frankenstein monster in our midst by probably prescribing too much of antibiotics. And as he said, because of the advancements in various other modalities of treatment like transplants and cancer chemotherapy. I mean, these were not there in the past, and nowadays we are very successfully treating them. But as you mentioned, that the longer they stay in the hospital, the greater are the chances that they get an infection, and that is why the outcome, the ultimate outcome is poor. To talk to you in your own language, I mean, I have a young lad of 12-13 years whose mother comes to me and says that this fellow is having fever and cough and cold for the last 5 days, and could you give some medication to this patient? And I would say that it is typically viral infection, and things will settle down. Make sure that he doesn't go outdoors for some time, drink a lot of water, and when he has fever, he takes a paracetamol. And this lady tells him, what kind of a doctor you are? You're not even prescribing an antibiotic. Now this was that part of the story that he was trying to tell you. The stakeholder includes the public also. Sometimes the public also puts pressure on us that you are not a doctor if you're not prescribing an antibiotic. So to this kind of patients, what do I tell them? That my neighbor used to have a sore throat very commonly. And he would walk down to the nearest pharmacy, and the nearest pharmacy would say, this is the drug that you take it for 5 days. You take it twice daily, you take it 5 days. Very clearly the pharmacist has told you. I don't know what kind of background he had, but he has told very clearly. Now this gentleman, the typical Punjabi that he was, he went back, he took that 10 tablets, paid for it. In 2 days, he had not even taken 4 tablets. In 2 days, he felt fine. And he said, I'm all right, I don't need to take it for 5 days. And then 2 years, 3 years down the line, again he has a similar problem, the same sore throat he gets it. And he goes back to the same old pharmacy because now he's become a friend of his. पिछली बार तुमने जो दिया था ना दवाई वो मेरे को दे दो, मेरे को 2 दिन में ठीक कर दिया था उसने. This time he gets the same medication, all right, but this time in 2 days it doesn't make a difference at all. Because in these last 2 years, ciprofloxacin was prescribed to him the first time round. At that time, the resistance to ciprofloxacin for common gram-negative infection was 20-25%. Now it is 86% in my hospital. So it doesn't work. So that is one thing that people should realize. That number one, if you take it, then you take it for a requisite period of time. Don't be truant, don't miss it. And that is again something it's happening because these medications are available over the counter. If they were not available over the counter, as they mentioned that in the States and in other places, my son would carry a set of antibiotics when he goes to United States because that's where he studied. This time, because my other son got married, so things were a bit, not in proper place, so he didn't carry it. And he kept on calling me that I have been suffering from cold and cough and the nose is bad, I can't hear it, it is gone, I want antibiotics and I'm not getting it. He looked for an appointment, he got an appointment 14 days later, and that too he got a nurse practitioner appointment. And what did she give him? She gave him a great amount of charity. And azithromycin was the only drug that was given to him. And lo and behold, he responded to it. Now whether he responded to it because of azithromycin or maybe because his immunity had developed enough and the infection was getting eradicated in any way, so that's why he got better. I don't know. But the very fact was that he was kept free of antibiotics for such a long period because of the system that place. So what you people don't seem to understand is that these antibiotics have what is called as collateral damage. They have damage to the environment. It is something like I tell my relations that if I succeeded with one particular antibiotic or I use it for a longer than usual period, then the next patient who comes onto this bed may not respond to that antibiotic. Because, I don't know, because of sudden increase in nation pride, they take a lot of flack when a study like Lancet study is published, which says that the water supply of Delhi contains very serious bacteria which do not respond to commonly used antimicrobials, commonly used antibiotics. And this has been shown and published. And they took it as an umbrage that a very resistant mechanism of a mechanism of resistance which is new and novel has been named as New Delhi metallo-beta-lactamase, which comes in your tap. Then you can imagine what kind of problem we have in hand. So when we talk about Swachh Bharat, we really mean common public as well, and in general increasing the level of, what should I say, I mean, it's an opposite of poverty. I mean, just the level of standards of living, if they go up and people become more conscious about cleanliness, just that word cleanliness, that perhaps will go a long way in taking care of this problem.